It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical, Mainz and Dutch. I'm your host, Mainz. My colleague, a man who has never been accused of premature explosion, it's Mr. Neil Dutton. Oh, how are we, Neil?
See, there is a particular website that attacked Doug Peterson for his reaction to that and said he was too bro-ish.
I know.
This same website also had a correspondent say that Doug Peterson was the most unqualified man to lead an NFL franchise in 30 years. Seriously, right?
To be fair,
everyone to do with the Eagles. Take the L.
To be fair, let's be brutally honest. The Ringer is full, absolutely full of people from Philadelphia who are fervent Philadelphia Eagles fans. Mike Lombardi has apologised and took that back and said he's completely wrong. He missed the most incompetent coach in the NFL by about 150 miles, because that's obviously Ben McAdoo. To be fair to him, he was clearly in the right division. You were allowed to make outrageous comments.
Take the L.
Well, Lombardi did. You wouldn't know that because you have an agenda against him. Fair enough. The Ringer thing is different. They did say that. Colleen Wolfe, however, who I love in more ways than one, should not be tattling out of school on what her husband, a basketball reporter by the way, is chatting about in the office. That's not really what she should be doing.
Her first loyalty is to the Eagles.
First loyalty, yeah, it's obviously not to her husband. Today is Friday. That means there was a game on Thursday.
That's why I'm having a daddy soda.
As Neil would describe, never send a boy to do a man's job. It was a weekday. It was Washington versus Dallas. That means even the clapper, as he's appropriately known, can destroy the Washington semi-professional football team,
which drops them to 1-4 in the NFC East.
Yeah, and drops Kirk Cousins to 1-10 on a weekday, which is why every Washington fan should be hoping that every single Washington Redskin game is on at 6 p.m. Sunday night.
And breaking news, I think I've just broke my boiler.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Neil. So, few quick hot wax takes, then we're going to do darling loser, fancy team of the week. But as it's Friday, we need to get the show out. But we need to get the show out because we had a guest this week, Dutton. But we didn't.
Yes, you did.
We didn't have any guest. Yes, I did indeed. We didn't just have any guest, Dutton. We had the host of NFL Redzone, the man we share 7 hours of uninterrupted TV with every Sunday, Mr. Scott Hanson.
I spend more continuous time with Scott Hanson than I do with my family.
And I mentioned that to Scott as I introduced him. I'm not sure he took it as well as I expected. I think he was a little bit uncomfortable. But there you go. I can't do it. That's the issue.
That's why I do the interviews usually. Yeah.
Exactly. I was honoured to win the coin toss this time and decide to bat first. Let's get on with it, Dutton. I've got three points to make really on last week, although we are already in this week. I mean, I don't think we can start anywhere without talking about Eli Manning and the Giants. I, for one, will be glad to see the back of him, Neil, because we've seen him. We've seen him home and away for a multitude of years, and Washington have stank against the Giants in that time. We've mocked Eli Manning regularly on the show, regularly in life. Never been known as fantasy friendly, shall we say, Eli Manning. But let's be brutally honest, Dutton. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings. He's got 2 Super Bowl MVPs. And I know most franchise quarterbacks and historic franchise quarterbacks go out like this, but it's poor form by what should be the model franchise in New York.
Absolutely. I mean, if we take the name Eli Manning away for a second, and we'll drop to statistics, right? The net expected points metric that Number 5 uses. In 2015, Eli's net expected point per play was 0.15. That was 11th of 31 QBs with at least 300 dropbacks. Okay, so quite good. Last year, it dropped to 0.06, which was 21st out of 30 QBs with at least 300 dropbacks. This year, it is minus 0.01, 20th of 24 QBs with at least 300 dropbacks. Basically, what that translates to is every time Eli Manning dropped back, he was costing the Giants points this season. If you look at some of the other statistics, again, this take Eli Manning out of the equation, and this is the performance you're met with. His touchdown rate, 3.5%. Second lowest since his rookie season. 6.1 yards per attempt, lowest since rookie season. 9.8 yards per completion, lowest of career. 6.2% sack percentage, second highest since rookie season. Now, he wasn't being helped by the Giants. Obviously, they had the 6th highest pass-to-run ratio in the NFL, and they attempted the 3rd fewest rushing attempts for the 7th fewest yards and the 7th fewest yards per game. They surrounded him with crap. He lost, one of the best talents in the game in Odell Beckham. Brandon Marshall was a waste of a signing. The rest of the talent wasn't up to it. He was not good enough. But in a lost season, let him go out. Let him just make it clear. Eli will probably move on, but we're gonna, we'll give you a few games. But to drop him for Geno Smith beggars logic.
I think this is the issue, Dutton. Say like this was Kansas City, and they decided to dump Alex Smith and bring in Patrick Mahomes. There's a logical concept to that, right? Patrick Mahomes was a first-round draft pick, and they want to see as quickly as possible what they've got. What the Giants have done is bring in Geno Smith. They haven't even brought in Davis Webb. I'm perfectly comfortable to say that Eli Manning wasn't good enough anymore. That's fine. That's comfortable. I don't think anybody really is arguing that. What I'm arguing is that you've done that to bring in Geno Smith. That doesn't work for me.
No.
And if that was your move to try and save your job,
just quit.
That ain't gonna fly, because now everybody in New York wants you dead. So your job if your job wasn't over, as far as I'm concerned, it is now, because you've made a PR nightmare. And in theory, sold Amara's down the river. That's not going to fly.
2004, there was a team that was 5-4 after 10 games. They weren't going to make the playoffs because there were quite a few other dominant teams, including one in their division, who were 9-1. This team had a veteran quarterback under centre, but had a first-round draft pick. They approached him and said, look, even if we scrape in the playoffs, we ain't going to do anything. We're thinking of splitting time with you and the rookie. The veteran said, put him in or don't put him in. Don't be faffing around. If you want to see what the kid has got, put him in. I'm fine with it. The team was the New York Giants. The veteran was Kurt Warner. The quarterback was Eli Manning. I think, knowing what we do about him, if they'd said to Eli Manning, we want to see what we've got in Davis Webb, because we're going to have a high pick, we may use it on a quarterback, we want to see, though, what we've got in him, I think Eli probably might have said, okay. But to say we are putting in one of the train wreck quarterbacks of the last 10 years to see what we've got, I'm not surprised it rubbed Eli up the wrong way, and most of the Giants fans.
Yeah, absolutely, don't absolutely. If we stay in the NFC, everyone's focusing on the Eagles, and rightfully so. Nearly NFC East champions. Unfortunately, Washington let them down there. But I'm interested, me personally, in the Carolina Panthers. They have been beaten by the Chicago Bears inextricably. nearly lost to the New York Jets this week. But when they're good, they're frightening. And I'm wondering if I'm mad to think that they're about to put on a show Sunday night and win in New Orleans and become the team no one wants to play in the NFC.
Well, defensively they're very good. Obviously, they lost Sean McDermott, but Ron Rivera still has his fingerprints on this defense. The issue I have is Cam Newton's not passing the ball very well at all. Again, we go back to the number 5 net expected points. 0.1. He's 14th of 24 QBs with at least 300 dropbacks. Not great. The Panthers have got more dangerous since they basically went, oh, balls to it, just run. And let Cam Newton do what he does best. Cam Newton, of 63 players with at least 50 rushing attempts, his rushing net expected points per play is 0.23. That is the 6th highest of any player with 50 rushing attempts. Not running back, player. In terms of quarterback, it's second only to Russell Wilson. If you can somehow stop him running, we've seen that Jonathan Stewart doesn't seem to have much left. Christian McCaffrey is a first-round Danny Woodhead. I don't think they're that frightening. But stopping Cam Newton from running is easier said than done.
Yeah, I don't know. When I've watched them, they've been good. And it's really weird because, like, I watched it was Thursday night, wasn't it, against yourselves? Was that Thursday night in Carolina? Was it Thursday
Who was it
night
when they played?
Playing you, Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night. Yeah,
Thursday night, and that's a
They couldn't run a bat.
Yeah, but I watched that with the 40-minute one, so I didn't get much of the chat. But it's a very strange game to watch because they seemed dominant and dominated against in equal measure during the game. Like at some moments you were like, oh, well, they're just easily going to win this game, and then you're like, oh my god, they may get beat by 40 points. And I just think that kind of team, and they're 8-3, and they've still got games against New Orleans and Atlanta, and they could quite easily get to the 2 seed.
The Saints, I think if I was the Saints, I'd be a little worried, especially the last 2 games. I know obviously they won one of them against Washington, but they had to come from behind. And, Drew Brees' will was stronger than the Redskins' will. Then they couldn't pull out against LA, who, are a good team. But in week 3, they went to Carolina, I believe, and put on an absolute hurt on the Panthers. They're just starting to wobble a little bit at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
And especially with the Panthers, the record is what it is. The Falcons are starting to look a bit dangerous. It's the wrong time to get this type of wobble.
Absolutely.
Personally, I'm loving it because, I've no reason to fear the Panthers, but I do fear Drew Brees.
Of course. While Drew Brees' team is having a wobble, his former team, a long time ago, for those who aren't aware, in that 2004 the Eli Manning sweepstakes, is the former San Diego Chargers, now the LA Chargers. Let's be honest, Dutton. I think there's a nice bet on the cards here of Pats versus Chargers AFC title game.
Whichever stadium it's in, there'll be more Patriots fans, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, we know, and we also know a win because the Chargers physically can't beat the Patriots. I don't think anyone in the AFC can, but there's a bit of something about the San Diego Chargers that we thought we'd see a lot earlier. Now, all they need to do is, not lose those stupid games, and I think they're going to win their division. And then you never know what happens.
Phil Rivers, on Thursday against the Cowboys, put on an absolute clinic. It was an absolute joy to watch. They struggled to run the ball, which, I think a lot of us were surprised by. I know I was. But it just looked like any time he needed to make a play, he did. He found Keenan Allen. He found Hunter Henry. He just got things going. The great Scott Fish tweeted this out yesterday. Bear with me a second. Keenan Allen. In 62 career games, Keenan Allen has 100 yards or a touchdown in 28 of them. That's 45.2%. He has at least 4 receptions in 74% of them. 100 plus yards in 30.2%. And a TD in 30% of his games. If he was healthy the whole season, the Chargers would not be having to come up on the outside or prematurely explode. Their defense is absurd because of how good it can be. They are dangerous. I just worry that they might have left it a bit too long, a bit too late. They may win the division because of, the tumbling around them, but let's be honest. Week 15 is going to decide where the AFC title game is played.
Yeah, but I've seen this. I've seen this film in Pittsburgh before, so I'll believe it when I see it. They're what we're talking about this week. But let's deep dive fantasy style, don't we? Let's go good, the bad, and let's be honest, your fantasy team, so the ugly, and move on straight away and find out who doesn't love this week with his fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Weirdly as it is, I actually love Julius Thomas. He's been something of a consistent contributor for the Dolphins of late. He did get 5 catches for 52 against the Patriots, and he has scored a touchdown in 2 of his last 3. The Dolphins' offense is putrid, we know, but they're playing the putrid Broncos defense, who are one of the historically bad teams against tight ends. So I really like Julius Thomas this week. I prefer him to other tight end streaming options. It's few and far between this week, to be fair, but I think he's a going concern this week. I'm not pissed, by the way. I'm just have a slight hiccup. That's why I'm talking in short shot. I'm doing basically a William Shatner impression. I'm not intending to.
Thanks, Bill. Julius Thomas, he used to be someone, and Dutton believes he's coming back to being someone again. However, not everyone is on Dutton's good list. There's some naughty people as well. Let's find out who Dutton's loser is.
We talk about how the Chargers can find, miraculous ways to lose games.
Oh, yeah.
Austin Severian-Jenkins can find miraculous ways to not score touchdowns.
Is it just Austin Severian-Jenkins who causes this, though? Is there higher powers at work?
No, I'm blaming him. The fumbling into the end zone, out the end zone, not getting your feet down, that's fine. The drop in the end zone last week, oh sweet Jesus. Regardless, he gets quite a lot of targets, but he doesn't actually get many yards. I don't think he's passed 50 yards since week 7, despite getting all these targets. He's playing the Chiefs, not a great pass defense, but the way to beat the Chiefs is not through the middle, it's on the corners, so it's more likely to be a Robbie Anderson day. I don't think ASJ is worth the candle this week.
Okay. Dutton, as always, tight ends heavy for darlings and losers. These are the people who can win. You can tip the balance in your fantasy playoffs.
They never do.
No, they never do.
Bastards.
Dutton, let's get on. Let's do our fantasy teams of the week.
Mainz and Duts. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who's your quarterback this week?
Quarterback at 7,800 is Tom Brady. He has thrown multiple touchdown passes in 7 straight games in Buffalo, and his past 5 games in Buffalo, he's averaged 354 passing yards. He has 16 touchdowns and 1 interception.
So, breaking news, Tom Brady, good at football.
If you've got him, start him.
Yeah, that's why Neil gets paid the big bucks by the multiple publications he works for. My quarterback is very different to Tom Brady. He's 6,000. This time last year, if you said you were starting Case Keenum, you would have been laughed out the park. He's playing Atlanta this week. He's playing well. and he's going to be part of what can only be described as a historic double stack coming up in Mainz Marbles. Dutton, who's your running back one?
A man who retired from the NFL for a week last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, Jordan Howard. He's 6,500. He averages 103 yards from scrimmage per game in 14 career home games, and he scored 3 touchdowns against the 49ers last season. That's who the Bears are taking on in this used to be a big game bowl.
Did used to be a big game bowl, Dutton. Good call. And my running back one is in the game where your quarterback is. I've gone for Dion Lewis. He's 5,500. Just check out, if you don't believe me, just check out his stats over the last 4 weeks in daily fantasy. It's over 15. He's being used a lot, and they love him in New England, and I think it continues in Buffalo.
Since the Patriots came off their bye, Burkhead and Lewis have 42.6 and 43.6 fantasy points each. I actually, in one of my leagues, have them both starting.
Nice. Who's your running back 2, Dutton?
Running back 2 would probably be the running back 1 if he was still in Seattle. Alex Collins. There is the one shot doing the rounds on the Twitter of him being, how should we put it, emasculated by Jadeveon Clowney. But to be fair, Clowney...
He got blowed up.
Yeah. My God, that man has a family. He's 4,500. He averages 89 yards from scrimmage in his last 4 home games. The Lions, who the Ravens are taking on, have allowed a rushing touchdown in 6 consecutive games. That is the longest streak in the NFL, and it's their longest streak since 2011.
For people who are younger than me and Neil, which is probably a lot of people, can I recommend a film called Friday, starring rapper Ice Cube and Chris Tucker? I won't do the sentence that we need in relation to the Jadeveon Clowney on Alex Collins move, but Chris Tucker screams it really, really loud.
If said in a certain way, does it sound like a polite word for a lady?
Yeah, a lady got knocked out.
Yeah, like Judi Dench.
Correct.
Dame Judi Dench, yeah.
Correct. My running back 2, Dutton, is Joe Mixon, who in my League of Record last week was on the bench and meant that I lost. And playoff ignominy means I'm going to be in the loser bowl this year. He is 5,100. Say it quietly, but I think Cincinnati might win this game this week.
It would be very Pittsburghy to lose it.
Exactly, Dutton. Who's your wide receiver 1?
See, I've already tethered a running back to a terrible quarterback. I'm going to tether a wide receiver to an improving quarterback. That's Devontae Adams. He's 6,500. He has averaged 6 receptions for 99.3 yards in his last 3 games. His target share in those 3 games have been 32%, 27.8%, 34.6%. He has 2 touchdowns in his last 3 games. The Packers are taking on the Buccaneers, and their secondary is an absolute sieve.
Do you know something really interesting? That I started watching the NFL about 1990, and that's a long, long time ago for those who aren't aware. I didn't know anything of geography at that time. And I used
Tampa Bay and Green Bay.
Yeah, I thought Tampa Bay and Green Bay was like a derby.
Yeah, so did I. Because I'd heard, when I first started watching, I heard about the rivalry between Brett Favre and Warren Sapp. So I thought, oh, this must be close. No, they're 1,000 miles away and they play each other once every 4 years.
My wide receiver 1 is... okay, I'm trying to think. I was about to give a hot take. I'm not going to do that.
Spit it out, man.
I was going to give some kind of number on how good he's been this year. He's probably been the 3rd best wide receiver in the NFL, and it's Adam Thielen. He's been absolutely magnificent. He is 7,500.
Are you hooked on him?
See what you did there? Yeah, I have.
Love a dad joke, mate.
He's love a dad joke, yeah. He's 7,500 and he's mustard.
I believe if he gets his usual 5 receptions for 60 yards, I think he will overtake Chris Carter for the franchise record for consecutive games.
Yeah, Chris Carter, good at football.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your wide receiver 2, Neil?
Cooper Kupp, 6,400. He's had at least 6 receptions in his last 3 games. He had 25% of the team targets last week, which was the first game missed by Robert Woods. And he posted 8 receptions for 116 yards. He did have a touchdown when they played the Cardinals last time. That's who the Rams are playing. He will avoid Patrick Peterson because Kupp will be playing in the slot, and Peterson will be concerned with Sammy Watkins. So I think Kupp will see a lot of work.
My wide receiver 2, I believe, has a backup quarterback this week, or a starting quarterback maybe back. Either way, he's travelling to Wisconsin. He's big, and he's Mike Evans, and he's 7,100. And actually, has performed better with the backup than he did with the starter in recent weeks. So I'm sure Mike Evans is hoping that the Fitz magic train continues in Tampa Bay.
Who'd have thought a quarterback who basically, when faced with a 6'4" wide receiver, just go YOLO and throws it up there, would work?
I assume Ryan Fitzpatrick does that, Dutton, as he's a really intelligent man. And do you know how I know he's a really intelligent man?
How do you know?
Because he went to Harvard.
You're joking me.
Honest to God, you wouldn't believe it, would you? Who's your wide receiver 3?
I've never heard that. Wide receiver 3 is D.D. Westbrook, 4,100.
That's a shout out to a friend of ours, Mr. Michael Chalner, who when watching him in Oklahoma was pretty convinced he was going to be Antonio Brown.
I'm convinced that Chalner should stop watching Oklahoma wide receivers, especially ones who go to the Jaguars. He has been targeted on 30% of his routes in the last 2 weeks. He's seen 16 targets in those 2 games. He's got 9 catches for 76 yards. Marquise Lee has been somewhat taken out of the game in the last 2 games, so there is that concern. But for 4,100, he's only, he's a wide receiver 3 for a reason. And they're playing the Colts. Again, we talked about the Packers, the Buccaneers being a sieve secondary. This has just fallen to bits. No Malik Hooker, no Vontae Davis, no Rashawn Melville. You've got a head coach quoting Groundhog Day in his press conferences. It's all gone to rat poo for the Colts.
It has, doesn't it? Has. My wide receiver 3 is a man whose what can only be described as one of the bizarrest NFL careers of all time. He was drafted high. He couldn't catch. He became a punt return specialist. He moved. He still couldn't catch. But when he did, he seemed to go for 70-yard bombs every week. He then left, and now he's in New Orleans. But don't worry, it's Ted Ginn's revenge game this week. As somehow he's now wide receiver 2 on a Drew Brees-led offense. Like how has that even happened?
I think Michael Thomas for the Saints is having the worst good season of all time. It's every week, it's 6 for 70, 6 for 70. It's like, my God, you must be pleased with this. But from fantasy football, it's like, I hate Mike Thomas. I want him dead.
So I've gone for Ted Ginn. He's 5,100. And he gets them yards that Michael Thomas doesn't. He's literally, honest to God, he's wide receiver 2 on one of the best offenses in the league. Ted Ginn Jr., drafted 8 by the Miami Dolphins, couldn't catch for 10 years. Wide receiver 2 on Drew Brees' team.
Find someone to love you as much as Ted Ginn loves running out of bounds.
Exactly. Who's your tight end, Dutton?
16 games with multiple touchdowns since 2010, most in the NFL. Past 6 games in the stadium he's playing at, 97 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, 7,300, Rob Gronkowski.
Him who called out his mate Mojo Rawley this week on Instagram as Mojo Rawley turned on Zack Ryder and became a bad guy in the WWE. Gronkowski, honest to God, I mean this deadly serious. He's like a Hall of Fame player. He needs to retire immediately and become a wrestler. Honest to God, he'll make more money as a WWE champ than he makes for the New England Patriots, and it won't hurt as much.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like
they'll script in your injuries, Rob. You won't actually have to get them.
Exactly, absolutely, Neil. I've gone for a tight end who it's been a safety blanket for his quarterback throughout Jacoby Brissett's time there. It's everybody's favourite 1930s gangster, Mr. Jack Doyle. He's 5,200 and he's gonna get his Tommy gun out and create havoc with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He has enjoyed a low-key excellent season. Because when you factor in, he's not a great athlete. He's not that good a receiver either, but he's just been solid. When most of the things that they've done have turned to poo-poo, he's been very good.
They love it. They love an unathletic, not very talented tight end in Indianapolis, don't they? See Dwight Clark.
They had Marcus Pollard. They had Dallas Clark.
I think he said Dwight Clark.
Jacob Tammy.
Yeah, Tammy. They love him.
Can't get enough of them.
Who's your flex, Dutton?
Flex is Julius Thomas, 3,500.
Who we've already discussed. My flex, double stack alert. It's Christmas time, Dutton. You know what that means? It's time for Rudolph the Redzone tight end. It's the Carl Rudolph. He's 4,500. And Case Keenum to Rudolph is a touchdown-making machine.
He started slowly. These two took a little while to link up. That's probably because Sam Bradford had such that great connection with Rudolph last year. But no, he's come on a lot. And a couple of, his 2 touchdowns against the Lions last week were very pretty thrown balls and were very good catches.
Absolutely. Who's your defence and special teams from Los Angeles who are playing the Browns?
Geno Smith has 36 interceptions in 34 career games. He has 9 games with multiple interceptions. He has been sacked 77 times in 34 career games. For $3,100, the Oakland Raiders.
Wow. Everybody, let's just settle down and think about what Neil has done there. That's how much Ben McAdoo has made the terrible decision that Neil is picking the Oakland Raiders, who had their first interception last week in about a year.
It's the first interception since the Roosevelt administration, and I don't mean Franklin.
And he's gone with that team against the New York Football Giants. I've gave man away because my team's playing the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how many points you get for sacks. I was looking if I could get Joey Bosa as a flex in my daily fantasy sports. Unfortunately, I couldn't. The only way I could get Bosa and Ingram in my team was to get the defence. Deshaun, it's nothing personal. It's strictly business.
Not personal. You're just crap. He actually has been one of the few quarterbacks whose net expected points has been worse than Eli Manning's. Although the second worst quarterback, just in the interest of fairness, is another Super Bowl MVP, Mr. Joe Flacco.
Ooh, he flat out. See, I'm going to get back into that rant. Be careful paying your quarterback millions and millions of dollars on long-term deals. You know why? Because things like the Baltimore Ravens happen.
He has fewer games. Sorry, he has. Let me think. He has more games. He has more games this season, averaging 5 yards per attempt. What is it? He has the same number of games, averaging 5 yards per attempt, as Alvin Kamara has, averaging 8 yards per rush.
I knew this stat because you told me this week, and I wanted to get out. Basically, it means Joe Flacco is passing it backwards, and Alvin Kamara is breaking tackles.
Alvin Kamara, by the way, is freakishly good at football. I really despise that number on his back.
I know you do, Neil. I know you do.
It is not a running back's number.
Well, the fact that he's a running back and he's got that number suggests otherwise.
Although Matt Franchise did say it's hipster. Well, he would say that. That's your brand, Matt.
I was going to say, when we all can grow a beard like Matt, maybe we'll do it. Dutton, talk me through your team. Quarterback.
Tom Brady.
I've got Case Keenum. Running back 1.
Jay Howe.
I've got Dion Lewis. Running back 2.
Alex Collins.
I've got Joe Mixon. Wide receiver 1.
Devontae Adams.
I've got Adam Thielen. Wide receiver 2.
Cooper Kupp.
I've got Mike Evans. Wide receiver 3.
D.D. Westbrook.
Ted Ginn Jr. Tight end.
Gronk.
Jack Doyle. C. Flex.
You'll never take my life, Copper.
Flex.
Julius Thomas.
Rudolph, the red zone tight end. And defense and special teams.
The Raiders.
I've got I don't know. I keep on wanting to sing the San Diego Superchargers, but I can't do that.
You can just fit Los Angeles Superchargers in, but it's awkward.
Yeah.
Los Angeles Superchargers. See, it doesn't.
I think we need to get Matt Money on to see if he's ever actually just said San Diego, even though he's only worked for them since he'd been in LA.
Did you hear his commentary on the pick 6 on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, amazing.
Knock on wood. Brilliant.
Neil, where can people catch you this week?
They can catch me on the Twitter machine at EndUp13. I had my tight end streamers article is out, and I've written a Who the Hell Is article on Johnny Holton, who's a wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. He could benefit from the absence of Michael Crabtree, who was suspended for tackling a jewellery thief, and Amari Cooper, who has an ankle and concussion. So given that how much the Raiders love playing 3 wide receivers, Johnny Holton should see an uptick in snaps. Haven't written anything for number 5 this week because I'm very lazy, but I will be on with Nat and the boys before the first slate of games on Sunday. Fantastic.
Well, Neil, that's the end of me and you. So I'm going to hand over to me, talking to someone better than you. It's Mr. Scott Hanson. And we will see you all next week. So, how much time do you spend with loved ones in a week? Do you spend 8 hours uninterrupted with a loved one? I don't personally, but I do spend it with Scott Hanson every Sunday in the UK, starting at 6 o'clock. Obviously, different time. And unbelievably, we've got Scott to join us on Waxing Lyrical. How are we, Scott?
Paul, doing great. Good to be with you today. Greetings from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, I'm assuming much warmer than East Anglia, and that's not difficult. But I'm sure, as most of our NFL colleagues who we've spoken to before, Marcus Grant et al. Will tell me, it's usually 72 and sunny.
It is sunny here right now, and it's gonna hit about 70 degrees Fahrenheit here today. And I appreciate you converting from Celsius there, because I couldn't do it in Celsius quite as easily.
No, you have to. We speak in multiple languages, so to speak. So when we talk NFL, if we just get straight onto it, Scott, I know you're mad busy.
Sure.
We've got serious questions, but this isn't one of them. And my question is, and it blows up my mind in our group all the time. I assume bathroom breaks are for the week. Is there a bag? Is there a toilet straight away, or is it just I'm not allowed to drink anything 4 hours before the show, and then I can drink a little bit during the show, and then as soon as that last game finishes, it's quick step to the restroom.
Yeah, okay, I would describe it this way. Well, first of all, for any of your viewers who might not be familiar, hosting NFL Redzone, a 7-hour, no commercials, constant action show, and being the solo host of it, it has certain biological requirements, shall we say. And the truth is, I do not take a bathroom break in those 7 hours. I have not taken a bathroom break in over 4 years during the show. So I start watching the show. I'm in Los Angeles, and the show begins at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. So I start on Sunday. So I start watching what I eat and drink on Saturday night. Obviously, input equals output, so I start watching my diet and all my intake on Saturday night. Sunday morning, I have the same routine. We have a chef at NFL Network who makes me the same very protein-dense, salty breakfast so I can retain water. And I cut my liquids off about two and a half hours before the show. And then in the last hour before the show, I use the restroom twice, go to the loo twice, and then it's the willpower of a ninja after that point. You know, I care about my audience enough to shut it down. Was this in the job interview when you applied for Redzone, or was this something that you worked through? So it's a 7-hour show. The audition to become the host, usually in television, sports TV in the United States, usually, and I bet you it's similar in the UK. If you do a television audition for a sports job, it lasts 10 minutes, 15 minutes. They put you up on camera. They want to see how you look, how you sound, if you can handle yourself, you know, that type of stuff. But it's quick. This audition for NFL Redzone was 5 hours long, because part of the requirement for the job was longevity, stamina, but not so much biologically as it was enthusiastically. Could you maintain the passion for football and the focus and the energy hosting a show like that would demand? So they weren't really checking the integrity of my bladder, shall we say. But I guess I'm sure the executives at NFL Network were thankful that they hired a guy who does have an iron bladder. So in the UK, obviously we catch Redzone in two ways, either through NFL Game Pass or through Sky Sports. But what a lot of people in the UK may not know is that, as Dave Damashek would say, conflict is key to drama. And in the US, There's actually 2 NFL Redzones. And the question we've got is, do you and Andrew Siciliano, who also works for the NFL, but does it, I believe, for DirecTV, correct me if I'm wrong, yes. How do you have a rivalry? Do you speak about how you do the show? Do you share notes, or is it like the 2 completely separate shows? Yeah, it's a good question. So for those not familiar, I host NFL Redzone, which is seen all over the United States and all over the world. Virtually everyone who has an international NFL Redzone feed would be my show. Andrew hosts the Redzone channel. I know it sounds exactly alike. The concepts are very similar. The production value is different on the 2 shows, but similar ideas. Andrew has been hosting the Redzone channel longer than I've been hosting NFL Redzone. And the answer to your question about rivalry, absolutely not. I love Andrew. He's got a big football brain. I mean, the guy works hard. He's an excellent broadcaster. I admire a lot of what he does. Not only I don't see him on Redzone, his Redzone, but I see him, hosting other NFL Network shows. Well, the truth is, the first phone call I made when I was a finalist for NFL Redzone, the hosting position, was to Andrew Siciliano. I consider us friends, and we were college buddies. We both went to Syracuse University in central New York, has an excellent sports broadcasting program. It's kind of like known as like Harvard Law School is the best in the United States, maybe the best in the world. Syracuse Broadcasting School is considered to be the best as well. So we both went there. We have a lot in common in that way. So no rivalry. And it's part of it is this. If you have DirecTV, you have access to the Redzone channel and Andrew's show. If you have anything else, any other television provider in the United States, it's NFL Redzone. So people have already kind of, quote unquote, made their choice. It's not like he's on channel 601 and I'm on channel 602 and people go back and forth and compare. It's whatever the television provider is. And ours, the other major distinction is ours is the official one run by the NFL. We are NFL Redzone. So those are some of the distinctions. But no, I love Andrew, respect him, and you guys ought to have him on your show here sometime. As we said, it's 7 hours long, but I'm interested in behind how long it takes to make a 7-hour show. It sounds ridiculous, but obviously there's a lot of live content. We're diving in, we're diving out of different games. How much preparation from yourself or the rest of the team does it take to set up all those stats that almost appear in your mind instantaneously when you go to Green Bay or to Pittsburgh or to Philadelphia or wherever it is? Well, yeah, that's a great question. I'm very blessed to be the host, the face man of the show, the face and the voice of NFL Redzone. But it takes a village, as we say. I've got 30-some people on our staff on Sunday executing the show live. And beyond that, during the week, so much of it is prep. I mean, look at NFL football players. Let's use an NFL quarterback as an example. That guy is working hours and hours and hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday that none of us will ever see, right? Or ever really get our hands on and our minds around how much they work. But their job only matters 3 hours on Sunday. That's what matters. So my job is 7 hours on Sunday is what matters because that's what people see. That's what they consume. But my work to get there is all done during the week. On Tuesday night, I get a research packet from our excellent research team at NFL Network, and it could be 200 pages long, usually kind of putting a button on the games from the last Sunday and then looking forward to the upcoming Sunday. So I start diving into that on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday, I compile my own spreadsheets. I have certain websites that I go to, NFL.com first among them, to compile stats that I just like to have on hand for any given Sunday. Because hosting a show like that, you don't know what player is going to make the amazing play, what coach will make the boneheaded decision, what team will have the unbelievable performance, or what game will produce the most drama. But you know, if we've got 12 games on Sunday on NFL Redzone, 1, 2, 4, 5 of them are going to be jaw droppers. So I need to prepare for all of them, and then we let the action play out before us, and hopefully I seem very well read on whatever the eventuality is.
Our favorite section for my group of friends is your admonishment of said network, whether it be CBS or Fox, trying to sneak in a commercial. So my question is, have you ever spoken to any of the executives in them shows who actually are trying to do that deliberately? They're like, we've just gone in the red zone, quick, they're going to come to us, let's put a break on to see if we can catch Scott and the team out.
Well, have you guys noticed this year that the NFL and the broadcast partners for us on Red Zone, the major broadcast partners are CBS and Fox, of course. NBC and ESPN have contracts with the NFL as well, but it's CBS and Fox games that we deal with on NFL Red Zone. They've gone to doing 30-second insert commercials, if you will, where they still show the teams in the huddle right here, but it's a timeout, and here comes a commercial for, Chevrolet or something like that over here. Or 5-second commercials they've been going to, if you've noticed. A couple of times they'll do like, Energizer batteries are just the best. You need to buy Energizer. And that's how long the commercial is right there. So it's a little bit of a trick for us to we loathe, as you have readily picked up on, we loathe having 2 seconds of a commercial on. If it sneaks in there, we're like, let's go. And that's why I do the, as you call it, admonishment. We kind of have some fun with it because, we want to keep the action going for our audience. But no, I've never talked to any of the producers or directors of the individual games to say, are you guys trying to jerk with us sometimes that that our audience is watching and like, boom, they go to commercial break right when the punt hits the ground and gets down. There's no breathing room at all. They go right to the commercial. But it keeps us on our toes. So we like it.
Because I know in the UK, just a quick one, we get college football on a Saturday on one of the channels, and they just use the full-on live feed. But how they use the live feed is they cut back to their own commercials. So it's always quite funny if they cut in too early, they then get a second of a Chick-fil-A advert, and they have to cut back out because they're not allowed to show that because it's an American one. I guess we've got 2 more questions. First one is, sure. Do you think that the Red Zone has become exponentially popular due to fantasy and its links to that kind of model? Do you see a lot of people watching Red Zone and not necessarily their own teams because their own team doesn't have Aaron Rodgers and Le'Veon Bell?
Yeah, I think fantasy football and the proliferation of it over the last dozen years, maybe 15, 20 years, which coincided, of course, with everyone getting broadband internet in their homes by the turn of the millennium. Most people were on the grid, so to speak, and fantasy football has been a major driver for the popularity of NFL Red Zone. I always say this: if the Pittsburgh Steelers are your favorite team, fine. We don't ever want to impede on you enjoying every snap of your Pittsburgh Steelers games. For the folks who live in the Pittsburgh market where every game is on with every snap. But if let's just say the Pittsburgh Steelers are your favorite team, I can almost guarantee you your second favorite team is your fantasy football team, and you can't watch one game to see your team and then your opponent's team in fantasy. You need to watch them all. And NFL Red Zone is the place to do it. If you're not watching NFL Red Zone, you're just getting a sliver of the NFL. We give you the 10,000-foot view, everything you need to know. And beyond that, even if you're not a fantasy football player, we here in the U.S., and I bet in the U.K. as well, we love to be know-it-alls, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way, but we love to argue with our friends, our neighbors, our buddies, our coworkers about who's the best quarterback in the NFL, or who's the best coach in the NFL, or whose offense is the best. But you can't have a cogent argument unless you've considered all of the possibilities. And you can't consider all the possibilities, at least reasonably, unless you've seen it all. And the best place to see it all is NFL Red Zone. So the answer to your question, absolutely. Fantasy and then kind of the know-it-all aspect of sports fandom has been a major driver for us.
Well, Scott, absolutely thank you for your time.
You had one more question. I'm not going to cheat you here. I'm not going to cheat you.
My question's going to be the end, and it's literally, is Red Zone as much fun hosting as it looks? As I have to say, there's a group of a lot of our fans and followers who think you have got the best job in the world, so to speak.
Well, I would say this. My job is awesome. I love it. I pour my heart and soul into it. Not only on the 7 hours that you see us on television, but I think about it every single day. I think about hosting either the last week's show or the next week's show. If I wasn't watching it, or if I wasn't hosting it, I'd be watching it because I love football. And hopefully the passion and the energy that I try and bring to the show, hopefully it translates to sincerity across, because I love it. I love the game. It's the best sport on the earth. I know you guys are partial to your football over there, but it's the competition, the values that are taught through American football, the drama that the highest level of the athletes that they bring to the field every weekend is like nothing I've ever seen. And I feel hosting that show is a huge responsibility to bringing it to people, not only in the United States, but over in the UK. I hear from people in Mexico. I hear from people in Canada. I hear from people in New Zealand and Australia and in Asia. I mean, all around the world, people enjoying what has been called the best NFL show or the best pro football show available. So I love doing it. I love it that we have this many UK fans. And I will say this as I leave you. As we speak right here, we're in the back half of the season right now. I am currently in negotiations, let's say, with our friends over at NFL UK, the executives that work in NFL UK. And there is a slight chance that I could be coming to London during the playoffs and maybe hosting some type of an NFL UK event. Now, this is not official yet because there's a lot of logistics to work out, and it might not happen. But they have kind of thrown out an idea to me. I have looked at my schedule and said I might be able to work it out. But we will let you know. Stay tuned, because during the playoffs, there could be an event in London or the London area. I don't think they've picked a venue yet, where we could be hosting an NFL playoff party. And you guys, I would get the great privilege of meeting all of our NFL Red Zone fans there in the UK in person.
Fantastic, Scott. Well, thanks for your time, and thanks for the partial exclusive. And we will let you get back to your day in sunny Los Angeles.
Thanks. Great to be with you.